oh, but I poker face, I make it say, oh. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 101, if that makes sense. That was the audience joining in the way a crowd does with a rock and roll concert when it goes, I want to rock. That's what happened, okay? There hasn't been live audiences at events in some time, except church. I see on the gram people's church just doing their thing. No mask. Think the Lord's going to protect them. Hey, I hope you're right. You ever seen those videos? Not the videos, but there's a story about those preachers who would like bring snakes to the church in the South, and they would be like, the Lord is going to protect me against this serpent. And then the serpent, aka just the snake, for sure don't call, unless you're the Lord himself, do not call a snake the serpent, okay? Not a serpent. We're going to call it a snake because that's what it is. Probably a little garter snake. But in this situation, this preacher actually used a deadly poisonous snake, and he said, the Lord shall protect me. Listen, you're getting cocky. You're getting real cocky. If you're going out there and you're just trying to flex on people, read Revelations, because it will reveal the truth that the Lord saideth, don't flex like a fucking idiot. Psalms 11:10. Because that's what you're doing. When you get a poisonous snake and they're like, let me just flex real hard on you. It's like you're asking God to do way too much. If you're a preacher who takes a poisonous snake, aka serpent, for this story, and are like, look, y'all, my God's going to protect me from this serpent. It's the same thing as a girl when she goes to a club and picks a fight with a group of humongous brutes and says, my boyfriend will kick all y'all ass. In most situations, not true. I used to go out with a girl, didn't actually date her, but go out in groups, and she would always get drunk and start a fight, and the guys that were in the group would have to suffer the consequences because she'd get real mouthy, and then for this story, she would tap in God. The brutes were the serpent, and she just wanted to flex. Her boys were God, and she was like, my God shall protect me. And me being one of those lords in this metaphor was like, thou shalt not get me to come out with thou again because thou art fucking stupid, okay? Because thou don't want to suffer the consequences for thou's actions. That's how God feels, I imagine. I don't have a God complex, but I can only imagine that you're just like, I have little kids in Africa being swooped up by these guerrilla warfare rebels in the forest that are turning them into children soldiers, okay? The invisible children. They're just turning into pixie dust overnight and disappearing into the jungle. I'm trying to help those fuckfaces. I can't be swooping down here to the south to try to protect you from this serpent. And God's probably like, hey, just call it a snake from now on. Just because you want to flex on some followers, okay? And I think that's the actual conversation God had in his head, because when this preacher kept doing this with this poisonous snake, kept dancing with the devil, no pun intended, the snake fucked him up. And when I say he fucked him up, he gave him a one-way ticket to hell, okay? Because God doesn't want stupid people in heaven, I can imagine. That's what I would think that he would write that somewhere. And, you know how hard it would be around people if it's just full of people who were overly needy and attached to you and were constantly like, well, I'm only here, God, because I said that if I jumped off the cliff, you would save me. You would send your angels down. But not only did one preacher suffer the consequences of allowing a serpent, now I'm calling it a serpent, great, to bite him, but that preacher's son did the same thing and died as well. Let me confirm this. Son of pastor killed by a snake, at least they ain't called a serpent, during sermon. Son of pastor killed by snake. Okay, so the son of pastor, what is this, a fucking riddle? Son of pastor killed by snake during sermon is bitten by deadly snake during sermon. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? That's who wrote that fucking sentence. They have 2 titles they've ever written, and that was them. Son of pastor killed by snake during sermon is bitten by deadly snake during sermon. How funny if it would have been if it was the son of the snake that killed the father of the son. Oh, and there's actually a video. Oh my Lanta. Okay. So, Cody Coots. Okay, you got a name Cody Coots. Okay. I mean, with a name like that, probably don't need you in the gene pool, but maybe you're a great person. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a good person. Cody Coots asked his congregation to take him to the mountaintop where God would judge whether he lives or die. Pretty sure the poison in that exited the mouth of the said serpent is deciding that right now. Okay. However, a defiant follower, shame on you, takes him to the hospital instead, where doctors told him the snake came close to severing the temporal artery, which would almost certainly kill him. Oh, okay, so this wasn't a poisonous snake. It looks like it just took out temporal artery. Yeah, that's an important one. He got bit in the face. Most people bit in the face are dead in 5 to 10 minutes. Wow. I mean, his own daddy got bit in the hand and within 7 minutes was dead. Oh, man. His father, Jamie Coots, died at the age of 42 when he was bitten by a rattlesnake in 2014. Okay. They're playing with loaded rounds. Okay? Fuck around with a rattlesnake. You ever see me doing a church pastor hustle down south? Best believe just a gardener snake. Okay? I'm something you can get at the pet shop. I mean, I appreciate the commitment that they actually went with a rattlesnake. The church is inspired by the biblical verse Mark 16:18. They will pick up serpents, and if they drink any deadly poison, it will not hurt them. Even God is like, look, the Bible's a metaphor on how to live your life. This is why I don't knock the Bible at all. Your boy has read every page in that book. Do I remember everyone? No, but the important ones. It's a great book. And I also see the benefit of being religious. This picture is so insane that I'm looking at right now of this dude looking at the snake. Oh my God, this is crazy. This is so wild. Oh, man, could you imagine? It's like when the WWE breaks character. It's happened a few times where someone like comes off the ropes and like breaks their leg, and you kind of see, you know, the pulleys and everything behind the curtain of them being like, oh shit. And they always call like the dude's name will be something crazy like, I don't know, we'll say Stardust. And they're just like, Richard or Terry, are you okay? And you're like, oh shit. When they start using that first name, using their, you know, their born given name, they're not like Yellow Power Gold, you know, Papa Chango. You know it's real when they break character. And that's what's kind of happening in this church. When you see blood profusely coming down your pastor's head, you got to kind of be like, show's over, you know. God does not want you to flex that hard. And how cocky of you to just think you got it like that. Just think you got it like that. I got it like that. God's not going to let this snake bite me. Well, now we know. 2 for 2. 2 for 2, okay? But there's always a spin on it. They're always like, listen, God wanted me to challenge. He wanted me to, you know, to experience that challenge and face it. I think that's why religion has been around for so long. It's because it is written so broadly and everything's up to interpretation. And God always changes his mind. He's just like, you know what? There's a lesson in there. You just got to find it. I don't knock it though. I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh, seeing people at church with their celebrating, congregating. It's essential, I guess. Dude, I just watched a video. I'm all fired up. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 101st episode. I gotta say, the 100th episode was special for me. Obviously, we made a big deal out of it. Had every guest on the podcast that had been on it previously. Means the world to me that you guys did that. It truly does. It was a long day. Split it into 2 days. Had to do Sam Holland from across the pond in the morning. The episode came out. And just because of the time frame, he's on the different side of the world. And it was a long editing session, and I think I vow now that I will never have that many people on again. It was good that it was a check-in episode. I want to make it short and sweet, but I actually wanted to talk to everybody. It was great checking in, and I wanted to have kind of full episodes with people, but I kind of felt rushed because I was like, I got to kind of compress this a bit, or else it's going to be a 4-hour episode, and your boy's not there yet. Okay, but and I vow we won't probably do something like that again. It was special for the first 100. We're gonna keep it moving, pimping. I'm sure at every plateau we'll do something cool, but we're just gonna keep it moving, pimping. That's a thing. We hit 100, woo! Pop champagne. We keep it moving, pimping. We're on to the next 100. On to the next one. Feel me? We're going bigger and better and badder. I'm fired up about 2020, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I know for a lot of people this was a rough year. But guess what? It was the year of the fucking, I don't have a name for myself, the Puerto Rican pigeon. That's the sound that pigeons make when they're ready to mate, because I'm ready to fuck shit up in 2021. Your boy's going after it. All right? This quarantine, everything about it, you got to look at it for what it is, okay? You got to look at hard times. You got to find that silver lining in it, and that's what we're doing. We stopped for a minute, and we didn't take this opportunity to wallow, and, we, of course, everybody, we all went through that dark shit where we're just like Groundhog Day, everything's repeating. But I really assessed and was like, let's trim all the fat out of this bullshit, out of this process. Let's see, what do I really enjoy in life? What are the priorities? What really matters? And to be honest, I break it down to, I just love creating shit and original self-expression, if you will. I love talking to people. I love finding similarities in people that are from completely different walks of life. It makes me feel good. Just a little zzz of happiness and enjoyment and fulfillment. And that's what I learned in 2020 was that you take everything away that kind of distracts you from the rest of, from doing that thinking. Like, I was able to I kind of burn the candle at all ends a lot of times, from doing jiu-jitsu, video production, stand-up, all this different stuff to keep my mind constantly occupied. And it's important to have things taken away. You look at like Tibetan monks and shit. They just get down to the core of things, of what really matters. You get kind of lost in the haze of it all when you got so much going on, so much stimulation, so many different things going on. You're comparing yourself to other people. You're having FOMO. You're thinking about the grass greener on the other side. And then when everything gets kind of slowed down, you take yourself out of that. You kind of start wondering, what's important? Okay, it's not this, it's not that. Okay, well, how do I get the satisfaction and fulfillment without all these external things? And I think it's different for everybody, but I think it's similar in the sense you gotta at least ask yourself those questions. And I'm not trying to be fucking Tony Robbins right now. I'm not a 6'8" giant with fucking hands that could palm a beach ball. No, I'm not your Tony Robbins. But that's what I found out. I love my dog. I love my woman. I love my family. And I love my friends. And I love everybody who came on this podcast because it means so much to me. It really does. Like when my big thing is I try to be good to people and I try to help people where I can get nothing really back. because that's actually helping them. When you don't have any investment in it and you do something good for someone and you're not expecting anything back, it's like the best thing. And for everybody that, was a guest on the podcast, I really have a connection to. I've known mostly everyone before doing the podcast in some way or another. Pangolin expert Laura Aries, I believe is how you say her name. She tells me every time. We didn't know each other before we did the podcast together, and she's an amazing human being. She's one of those people you just meet, and they're out there just rocking in the free world, trying to do the right thing for the world. So that's great things that I've came across in this podcast. And it's just great to make those connections and have people willing to help you and what you got going on without expecting anything in return. So it was amazing. And I really am excited about 2021. Some big changes. And it feels like I never really talk about this too much, even though I talk so fucking much on this podcast. I've put so many years into doing my own thing. And for so many fucking years, like I've probably been at, let's see, I stopped, God, I'm fucking old. Got out of nursing school at like 22, 23, I think. I don't know. Everybody wanted me to take, the NCLEX and to really go down that route because, and even when I went into nursing school, I went into it with the idea of, you're just supposed to go to college, get a good degree, and get a good paying job. And I remember something was wrong when I was in nursing school. Your boy, we would hit that devil's lettuce in Puerto Rico and sit under coconut trees and just stare out at the universe and think about life. And I remember the only thing I kept thinking about with nursing school was I would bookmark which car I was going to buy once I became a nurse based on the salary. I would look at, okay, well, I'm doing this for the Audi R8. And I would look at it and I'd go on the website and just go through them and I'm like, well, this is cool. And then you start thinking, and then I just didn't enjoy clinicals really that much, and it just wasn't for me. And then when I got out of nursing, like I fell in love with doing music and creating stuff while I was in nursing school. It was really when it went to a different level because I was so isolated in Puerto Rico from, you're kind of forced to think a lot. And once I graduated, I was, supposed to take the NCLEX, supposed to, become a nurse and do all that. I knew halfway through nursing school I wasn't going to be a nurse. I was like, it didn't work with me. So then probably the next few years after nursing school, I had to move back in with my parents, and it was terrible being in your mid-20s, moving in with your parents because you just don't have enough money to support yourself because you won't use your degree because you're like, I want to do music and create stuff and start my own business and working construction during the day and learning about video production at night so I could figure out how to shoot music videos and do all this stuff. And I probably spent, so much fucking money on cameras and so much money on, laptops to be able to edit, and so many nights just trying to learn how to do something while making zero progress. And it was just like so many years without any return of just feeling like a loser in the sense of I had to move back in with my parents. I had to do this. I had to do that. And it's like you have to make those sacrifices because, it eventually pays off. And you just have to make sure you're working. And that's the thing is like I would feel like a loser because I would look at what I look like on the surface, that I had moved back home after college, that I wasn't, my friends were getting out of college, my classmates and everything, that I don't really talk to any of them anymore. But they were getting their degrees in engineering and all this stuff, and they were buying homes and all this shit and just real adult shit. And I'm like, I'm trying to learn how to make super hot beats, and I want to make videos, and I want to do this, and I want to own my own business. Like I always had that mindset. And I went through that for so long and constantly just relapse into starting to make a little bit of money, investing it, and then it would just like I would have to be working construction and just working these odd jobs. I've done so much dumb shit. And I say dumb just because I felt dumb doing it. It wasn't fulfilling, and I just did it because I needed money from driving food truck delivery, and packing meal preps and doing Uber and doing Lyft and doing all this dumb odd jobs, giving swim lessons, doing boxing lessons. And I did so much dumb shit for money. And half the time I was just getting hit on by gay guys on Craigslist responding to my ads, and it was just so heart-wrenching, so many years. And it was like weird because you feel like it's not going anywhere because you just keep investing, you keep doing this shit, and you're not really getting any return on it. And keep in mind, as I give this long-winded story for no fucking reason, there's much better ways to do it now. And there's ways that you can get quicker return, and that's why I love the internet, because there's so many different creative outlets now that you can figure out a path and not make as many mistakes. But you also have to dedicate a lot of time to crafts to actually see results with it. And the point I'm getting at is that it's crazy to be, and I still think I'm like at the bottom of the mountain of where I want to go and what I want to do with my life. Because I'm finally in a place where I'm actually doing it. I've finally gotten, either it's the expertise of the 10 years of learning how to do so much different shit with, creating merch and stores and web design and video production and music and all of this stuff that's kind of molded into one big thing where it's I don't need anybody. And it's because of all those years, rather than conceding to the pressure of fuck, what am I doing with my life? Maybe people are right. I should consider nursing school again. Because that was not nursing school, but nursing degree. Because that was something that happened even up until recently. As people would still be telling me, why don't you just work, as a nurse on this, and you can do this as a hobby after hours. Terrible. That sounds disgusting to me. And I also like the approach of you got to burn the boats, because if you have a way out, it's going to be, you're going to eventually take that way out. So I would never even entertain those ideas. But these past couple of years, especially in 2020, for some reason, I got very lucky with how I was positioned with my merch business and everything I do, to where I was able to still make money online with sales and everything, to the point where I'm able to hopefully buy a house in Texas, and my business is only going to grow. I'm going to start bringing that more into the podcast, where we're gonna figure out how I can start merging some things. And I'm just excited, ladies and gentlemen. I guess that's what I'm getting at, this long-winded shit. But it's more of I'm excited because I can actually tell people that if you invest in yourself, and you really invest in yourself, not some bullshit, I post Instagram stories about inspiration and fuck the haters, not that kind of shit. But if you actually make the sacrifices of instead of getting Starbucks this whole month, instead of eating out, instead of going to the bar this weekend, instead of buying that new phone, I'm going to take that and turn it into a nut where I have $500 to $1,000 that I'm going to invest somehow into my craft. Whether you're a musician and you invest in an audio interface or a microphone or some presets or a laptop, I don't give a shit what it is, but you just have to start investing in yourself. Because that's something that I even look at the more I get into mortgages and trying to buy land to build a house and everything like that, is the game is set up to keep people from not being independent. When you get into the renting, and when you get into these locked in cycles of you're paying someone else's mortgage, and the only way to really get out of that is to not invest in these superficial first level reward systems, when you don't get caught up in the latest clothes and the latest this, and I need this crazy car payment because it's a nice car. That's like a trap when you buy a brand new car, but you're oh, I don't have 0% APR for the first 12 months, and it's only $400. I'm only paying on the price. But the second you drive it off the lot, that car just went from $30,000 value, and that's cheap for a lot of these newer cars. All of a sudden, it's worth 22 because you drove it off the lot. The next year, now it's 17. And then what's crazy is like the best deal you can get is like a car that's like 3 or 4 years old. I've done all this research. It's that kind of shit, making those decisions. Just not getting into debt. I don't know why I got all weird on this episode. I wasn't planning it. I was going to talk about Eminem's new album and shit. We were going to talk about the vaccine and shit. Which I kind of don't want to talk to. There's so much politics. But yeah, I just love being able to actually be like, oh, this can work. You know, this actually, what I've done and what I'm doing is going to work. And it's starting to pay off. And at first, it didn't seem like it was real. But it can work. And I love just trying to help other people figure it out too. There's nothing better to me than when a friend that is in the system is like, I want to get out, and they start figuring out their own hustle, something to do. It just lights my fire. I get inspired of it. I get fired up bars, you know. But yeah, take chances, kids, especially if you're young. You got to be in it for the long haul. If you're young, set yourself up in a good position, get positioned right. You solid, baby. Don't FOMO. Don't buy Bitcoin when it's 23K. Just chill, you know? Invest slowly in yourself. Over time, that compound interest. Welcome to fucking Evan's Dave Ramsey experience. I think it's Dave Ramsey. But yeah, what was I going to talk about? Eminem's new album. Eminem dropped the new album. Dope as shit, huh? Eminem actually inspires me a lot. And there's a lot that I've actually learned about how to set parameters and discipline for yourself when you are in a creative field. Like when Akon has this story about working with Eminem where he showed up at the studio at like 6 p.m. in Detroit. He calls Eminem. He's like, hey, I'm at the studio. Where you at? And he's like, I just left. I'm at home. And he's like, oh, okay, you can come back to the studio? He's like, nah, man, I'll be there at 9 a.m. And he was like, oh, you're not going to be here? And he was like, no, I'll be there at 9 a.m. And then he's like, I leave the studio at 5 and I'm there at 9 a.m. to work. And he was like, oh, okay. And he was like, all right, that's weird. Next morning, Eminem shows up 9 a.m. sharp. Boom, ready to work. Gets in the booth, blah, blah, blah. Works all the way up till noon. At noon, he goes, all right, man, I'm heading to lunch. I'll be back. He says, you're not going to finish the verse? Nah, I'll finish after lunch. Are you going to take a break? Nah, man, I'm going to keep working. Okay. Eminem leaves, comes back in an hour after lunch. Works on the verse, finish it right at 5 p.m. Out. All right, man, I'll be here tomorrow. He's like, man, we only got half a verse. Nah, man, I'm done at 5. And then Eminem came back, 9 a.m. sharp, finished it. And I love that. And Eminem explained to him, he's like, this is a job, you know? I put my work into it, and then when I'm done, I go home and I spend time with my family. I think that's like such an important thing to be able to shut it off, especially for like longevity, to look at shit like a job like that when it's an art form. I always think that is such an Achilles heel when you have artists and creative people who are like, when I'm inspired, I only get inspired at midnight when I'm drinking. It's like, that's not sustainable over a long period of time. You gotta approach it different. Or people who only write when they're inspired to write. Like, you're never gonna fucking write. I can tell you that right now. Bars. But yeah, Eminem's new album, Music to Be Murdered By, Side B. Phenomenal piece. Phenomenal. I love when Eminem does these 2 parts, like the relapse and then the refill. I think what they really are is actually the B-side. Like, he actually straight up said it, is where you record so many songs for an album, so many don't make the cut, but those ones that were on the cusp, why not release it in a second album, especially right before Christmas? Genius. Eminem's one of those people that I had heard when he was recording Recovery. He recorded something like, or he wrote to like 300 beats, recorded 150 songs, and chopped it down to, I believe, 23 songs with like a bonus on recovery. That's insane. That work ethic to create that many different songs and to cut it down to like 23. Amazing. Simply amazing. I thought I was going to have more to talk about on his album. It's crazy the longevity that Eminem has had. To still be doing it at the top level. Phenomenal. There's not many people that can hold on that long to the top spot. You guys like this fucking weed whacker just swinging by during the podcast? Disrespectful. What is this? We'll end on this, ladies and gentlemen. News: coronavirus strains. Are they a cause for concern? Did you guys see that? Shout out to Sam Holland. The UK has a new strain of coronavirus. How are they going to try to scare us next? It's such a weird thing. I can't wait until... I'll never... This again goes back to my time machine fantasy. We have enough data to see how much they overreacted and if there was a reason for they at least tried to overreact. Because it's like the people who are rational and will take threats serious, they don't necessarily fall for the fear-mongering. Someone will. But is there actually enough objective proof that it works? Enough fear-mongering to get some people to follow protocols. Unless you're religious folk who is ready to let a serpent bite you. Because God is your vaccine. But I think they do such a... If I had to give my opinion on it, I feel like it's such a disservice to try to do the fear-mongering. Try to do this clickbait. Because it just makes people not trust you. It makes people not want to take it serious. And not only that, people don't want to listen. They're gonna push back out of principle, which I think is good. Listen, some of these restrictions in California, it doesn't make any sense. I'm all for, listen, if we have the data and we're showing that we need to follow certain safety precautions, great. But then at what point are we going to take care of business owners? I know there's been stimulus updates and everything now, but it's been so long where you have businesses going under, people getting evicted, but there's been no solutions. You can't ask a business to shut down. Don't make money. We're all going to make money here in the government, and we're going to be fine and wealthy, and we're going to get the vaccine first. But don't do anything. You guys just stay at home. You're the real heroes. I'm going to shut down every other vineyard except for mine. But you guys can't go eat in restaurants, and we're going to shut down the industry. But I'm going to go have dinner with all my friends with no mask on inside. Sounds good, Newsom. Sounds good. It's like they keep treating things black and white, where it's like we need to operate in a gray area. We need to find compromises. If we need to wear masks inside and all this shit, okay, fine. But we need to find a way where people can still make money and still survive during this. We can't have people lose their livelihood. It's not right. People can't earn money for their family. I think it's so important. It's like, with this new shit about new strains and stuff like that, is this ever going to end? Is there going to be a point where the government wants to give back power, where they lift restrictions? Because it's not going to be anytime soon. We're not going to have the government in the next 6 months go, bam, all COVID restrictions have been lifted. There's still going to be some weird shit. And I think it's important to not allow the government to set things in place right now that's going to give them blanket control of certain situations. When I start seeing my iPhone, and granted, I haven't looked through it so much, maybe I'm overstepping, but this new vaccine protocol thing and this new coronavirus where it's like, know if you've been exposed to COVID-19. Oh, now you're going to start tracking me and tracking other people that have possibly been exposed to it. It just starts feeling like we're entering weird territory where we're giving the government too much power. It's kind of crazy. It really is. It doesn't feel good. And especially when you see such like blatant corruption with some of these people, it's just gross. And it's like we need a new system completely. Like I think if there's one silver lining of the pandy, how much we've exposed how little politicians care about people. When they're getting paid, we have to avoid a government shutdown. We're writing bills immediately, drafting them up, rather than writing up, stimulus for people that are forced to stay home. You have people saying this bullshit. Go out, get a job. We'll go out and work. Everybody just wants handouts. This is a very unprecedented time. That doesn't work. And that's like a brainwashed approach. When people start saying, yeah, well, I work 40 hours and blah, 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 blah. Get out the fucking system. That's an illusion that they tell you, oh, well, someone wants to go to work and they want to work all these hours. Like they want you to work for them. It's weird. I also think it's weird that the politicians are getting their vaccines on like television and showing it to try to show people it's safe. I feel like that's the most condescending thing. They're just like, look at me, I did it, stupid monkey. Like they're looking at us like we're monkeys, and they're like, look, food, good. Like they're treating us like fucking, who is that lady that lived with the gorillas? What was her name? Jane Goodall. They're treating us like they're Jane Goodall, trying to show a monkey that food is edible. Or fire hot. Like that's what they're trying to show. Like, come here, it's safe. I put num 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 inside me. You eat. That's how they're talking to us. And it's weird that like, oh yeah, that's definitely couldn't just be a B12 vitamin. That's not a B12. You're over here getting fucking Nancy Pelosi. It's probably fetus blood they're injecting into her. She's some kind of creature. She's something. Listen, I'm not an ageist, but she is something. She is something with the Dark Lord, okay? Some pastor in the South is going to bring Nancy Pelosi into their church, and she's going to bite them. That's how I feel about Nancy Pelosi. Isn't it crazy, her saying about that salon shit, when she shut down all the businesses and then went to a salon, and then she was like, I was set up. That's like someone in a hooker bust, when they like a prostitute sting. It's like the guy who gets caught with the hooker, was like, I was set up. Yeah, no shit, but you still were about to get a hooker. That's not a good defense. But she's Nancy Pelosi, and that worked out. Yo, Gavin Newsom literally looks like the devil, doesn't he? Like, couldn't you see him like playing the devil in some Bedazzled movie? I see it. I see it fucking definitely. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the end. I got this weed whacker going outside. They're just busting me up right now, busting my balls, my podcast balls. But I just want to say I love you guys, and thank you so much for supporting the podcast. If you haven't, subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, like it, subscribe on YouTube. We're going to be having some changes around here. You can't keep bullshitting when you got 100 episodes, Can't keep bullshitting. We're just going to keep evolving, you know what I'm saying? But thank you, everybody who's listened to the first 100 episodes. I got to say, I want to say, when was the episode came out? I think on Tuesday. We had something without, no, it was the Friday before, over the weekend before we hit 100. I don't know who it was, but we had like 300 to 400 listens over the weekend with no new episode. And I went and checked the stats. Few people, I'm just going to say it was a few people, but every single episode got listened to multiple times. People going back to those first ones. Crazy to me. Crazy. I can barely listen to those episodes. I went back just to find a clip to end the last episode with. I was like, oh my God, who was this feller? That wasn't a 100 episode, Evan. I'll tell you that right now. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? doesn't matter, because here we are. Here we are, we're on my own. Going to 102 before the week's gone. Ooh, Christmas special. We'll have to do something fun. This is why I can't rent anymore, ladies and gentlemen. They wouldn't do me like this in Texas. But just know no matter what, I still love you.